Okay, I call the meeting to order.
Yes.
Roll, please. Roll call.
Osvaldo Lara, Guillermo Cavazos,
Here.
Andrés González, Richard Perales, Pancho Abram,
Here.
José Luis Castillo, Javier Martinez,
Present.
José González,
Present.
Richard Norton.
Present.
For the record, we do have quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. We have a report of the, I think we have one pending we had to report on.
Yes, we do have one case for the property of Lot 29, Block 8, San Isidro Northeast La Cuesta, subdivision Phase 2, located at 537 Altozano Drive. I have checked with the legal department to see the status on this case, and Ms. Christina Hell, the city attorney, advised me that they have proceeded to file an action in the district court. So
They've
as
already
soon-
filed action.
Yes, so as soon as we hear any updates, we'll make sure to bring it to
Did
the
you
board.
ask him to turn it up a little bit, the volume? I'm not hearing very well.
Yes,
I don't see him in there. There you are. Turn it up a little bit. Thank you. There you go.
okay. So, the legal department will follow up and advise us of any updates as soon as they hear anything. from the district.
All right, I need approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes as written. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the meeting of August 8, 2018. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our first item on the agenda is a request submitted by Jesus Cantu to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24-77, entitled Dimensional Standards, by granting a variance to the setback requirements on the east one-third of Lot 1 and the west one-third of Lot 2, Block 535, Eastern Division, located at 903 East Ash Street. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf? Need a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Go ahead and state your name, sir.
Jesus Cantu for the record.
All right,
My name is Maria Moreno on 903 East Ash.
go ahead.
They're asking for a variance on the west side of the lot. It's 3 feet right now, and they're asking to go with 3 feet, just keep in line the house that's existing right now. The setbacks are required is 5 feet, and they're asking for 3 feet. They're gonna be adding, if it passes, it's gonna be 4 feet by 7 feet, by 17 feet. So the variance they're asking for.
But your existing house is already at 3
It's
feet,
at 3 feet, yeah.
so you're just
Yeah, it's been there
continuing
for a
the
while.
So the existing house was, what's it called, grandfather?
Legal non-conforming.
Legal
That is
non-conforming.
correct, yes, sir.
And what you're trying to do is put it in line with the same
And that
line.
was the same house.
Anybody have any questions?
The metal garage is gonna.
Sorry?
The metal garage? That's back there. Oh, it's still gonna be there, right?
Yeah, it's still gonna be there, it's not gonna be in the way.
Any other questions? What is the proposed addition? I think you asked the question, was it a garage? No.
No, it's because that's an existing metal garage.
It's just an addition to the home?
It's an addition to the house.
You're adding to the house? Towards the back?
Right.
Okay. So you just want to stay with the same,
That is correct, the same house, the same
how
line.
many feet back? I mean,
17 feet.
17, but that's not, there's no variance for the, in the
Backside is
rear.
not the issue.
It's just the
side.
3 feet
It's the
side.
side, yes, sir. On the west side.
Side is going from 5 feet to 3 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
If we don't have any questions, I'll close the public hearing and
Move to close.
I have a motion to close. Second, a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Having said that, To be honest with you, I can't see where this would be an issue, a problem, because the gentleman is at least doing wanting to keep on the same line as the original home.
There was no work stoppage, he did not start construction, he's coming here and asking permission to do it, so, there was no work stoppage, was there?
No,
Okay.
And it's, hadn't started yet.
you haven't started it yet. No, sir.
Yeah, see, I mean,
But
that's,
we applaud you for those kind of things. We like it when people come to us before they get started,
So can I make a motion?
okay?
Okay, I'd like to, I move that, we approve this, request, being that, indicative of, what's the term that was used before?
legal
Legal
non-conforming.
non-conforming.
Legal nonconformist, and, I think it's, goes
Well, it's
along
key-
with what it's
yeah.
already there.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You got it. Our next, number two, number two. Request submitted by Juan R. Lozano to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Article 2, Chapter 28 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Sign Regulations by granting a variance to the LED off-premise sign requirements on Lot 5, Block 573, Western Division, located at 2607 San Bernardo Avenue. Now, before we get started with this thing, I want to mention to the board here, we do not normally handle sign issues. If you read everything that's in the packet there, you'll see that a request was made, it was denied, this is an appeal. It's an appeal that's coming before the board, has been answered by the city manager. Is somebody here from legal?
Yes.
My question to you is, we're being told that even if we hear the appeal process, we, as the Board of Adjustments, do not have the authority to rule on this. Is that correct?
That's something that we actually need to look into. I don't have an answer for you at this time. But we would ask that the item, be brought back so that legal can look into it, so that way you guys can make the appropriate decision if you all do have the authority to do so.
Having said that,
Mr. Chairman, so you're not sure whether it's even in the purview of the Board of Adjustments to hear?
At this time, no. But we are
See-
going to look into it, and we will get the answer to you as soon as possible.
Well, before our next meeting, I mean, can we
Yes,
get some
yes.
kind of information? I mean,
Definitely.
because we have the applicant waiting also, I mean, like,
Mr. Norton, you had something?
Yeah, I move that, if we're not going to be able to decide the situation right now, that we.
Yeah, if we're not
table-
certain,
Yeah, we're not sure, we table the project, we table this instead of hearing
I
this,
second that.
instead of wasting the time, the applicant's time, our time.
I have a motion and a second to table this until we at least can get more information
Confirmed
as to whether
information.
we can actually rule on this.
Yes, and we
Yeah.
will get that for you as soon as possible by the time you have the next meeting.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
For
Any
the
opposed?
record,
Okay, motion carries.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so,
for the record, Alisa Castillon from the legal department.
pardon?
Alisa Castillon from the
Thank
legal
you.
department.
thank you, ma'am.
Oh, sorry about that. We didn't ask your name. But we just asked if legal was here. So we're gonna table that, whoever's here on that one, we're gonna table that one until the next meeting, until we get further information. No sense in wasting our time or your time. All right, moving on to item number 3. Request submitted by Jason Fuentes to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Laredo Land Development Code, Section 2477, entitled Dimensional Standards, by granting a variance of the setback requirements of the west 49.17 feet of east 98.67 feet of lots 2 and 3, Block 1631-A, Eastern Division, located at 107 South US Highway 83. Is there anybody to speak on behalf of this? Motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, sir.
Just, because I'm trying to build a new house, and they have, the city asked me for 10 feet in the west side, 10 feet in the east side, and I have space only for 5 and 7, so I need 3 feet.
But this, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have a few questions for the applicant. Do you own the other lots, that we see here on the map? Let me put it on the projector for you. That belong to lot 3 and 4. Let's see, right now they'll switch the screen to the projector.
Is he there?
Is he there? There's nobody there?
There you go.
So this is the property that Mr. Fuentes owns, and what I'm here to ask him is whether he owns the rest of the lots for 2
No.
and 3.
No, so just only this one, pero this is not too full.
Okay. Do you have a conveyed title to the easement? So we have an issue because we're looking at the property, and this property was conveyed to Mr. Fuentes, but it was not replatted. And in order for a property to be properly subdivided, it needs to go through the process of replatting. The process of replanting does require for properties to have an access easement, access to a public right-of-way, in which this case they will have. It needs to be improved to city standards, and it doesn't look like it is. So I wanted to ask the board if we can table this item so that we can meet with Mr. Fuentes and go over replatting or other options. at
Yes,
this
I would
point.
suggest that. All right. I mean, we have a motion, and a second to table this item until we can find out. Because I agree, if you're gonna be replatted, it has to have access somewhere, and according to that aerial photograph, there's no access anywhere to it. All right, so I have a motion and a second to table this item until we have more information.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
How big is it get in there? How can it get in there? If this guy doesn't know what to do.
Next item on the agenda, a request submitted by Alberto Barajas to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24-77, entitled Dimensional Standards, by granting a variance to the setback requirements on the south one half of Lot 3, Block 903, Western Division, located at 3505 Salinas Avenue. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf?
My name is Alberto Barajas. I'm the president of AB Homes.
Okay.
We just want permission.
Move to open the.
Have a motion, to open public hearing,
I so move.
and second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go ahead, sir.
We just want permission to continue building on this home. We had a permit taken out for this building. This building is only 24 feet wide. We only gonna build as it was, which this house was about. It was really old. We started taking it down, and on the process, it was a lot of mildew. Everything is rotted. So we knocked it down with a hammer, and actually fell down. And we don't want to use the foundation as it was, and just to build it as it was before. Now, we had a permit for the house, you know, and I guess the neighbors complaining that, why did we get a permit for this property? So that's what we hear.
So it's just a matter of building on top of what that was already there, other foundation?
We're just gonna build the same thing that was there. Because we went to the city, we kind of, first thing we did a different plan, then they told us no. And we came with a different plan, no. And then finally, they gave us the permission to build as the final plan that we got. And then we started to work on it, and then stopped it. So we just want to
But
continue.
the plans that staff, the plans, were they on the same footprint?
It's the same, actually the same.
They did get a permit, an approved permit for building, or remodeling on the same footprint. What happened with Mr. Barajas informed the building department and planning is that once they went in to remodel, the structure, and you can see the pictures of the
Collapsed.
condition of the house previous to demolition, that it started to fall apart. So, because it was a non-conforming building, they have to come before the board to get the variances to have it to the same setbacks that they had before.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So is the footprint now that, okay, so the building kind of just collapsed. It was not safe to
It was not
do
safe.
a
It was
remodeling
mildew
there.
everywhere.
But the footprint of the building is now exceeding the setback requirements? Is that what it is, or?
It is encroaching according to our current standards.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. But when the remodeling was happening, since it was an existing structure,
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
excuse me for interrupting, but what were the plans on the remodeling?
We're gonna make the same house, just, just knock it down, but.
Okay, but,
Part, and we
but,
want.
no,
we're in
a
the process.
remodel to me is, you're gonna take something and you're gonna maybe fix this because it's falling apart, or fix this because it's falling apart. But if you use the term remodeling, to me, that is leaving the structure in place.
Well, that's what we were gonna do, but we walked in there and everything was mildew, everything was, you knocked it down and everything was falling. So it was more of a hazard for us.
Did you get a demolition permit?
No.
We don't have records of a
We're
demolition.
just gonna, we're gonna start, work on it, but it was just.
Well, see, the code of ordinances of the city of Laredo requires, if you're gonna start demolishing something, you get a demolition permit also.
Okay, so we do that.
Mr. Barajas, if I can. So in the course of your remodeling or rebuilding it or remodeling it, you noticed that the house was full of mold. Was the house basically kind of like collapsing on its own, or
Well, we
did it
walked-
take a lot of effort for you to do that? I mean, like,
We knocked down with hammers. You hit it and everything will fall
you
down.
determined the house was unsafe to remodel. Is that
It was,
what
it
you're
was
saying?
unsafe.
Okay.
Yeah, cause you walk in, you take out a wall and the roof is gonna fall off. You walk in, and when you first walked in, it was normal house. And you start taking the little sheetrock off, then you start noticing that everything was rotted. So you can't go in there and see what's gonna happen until you start taking sheetrock off. Then you realize it's not gonna be no good.
Okay.
It may have been a safety issue, that's why I demolished it.
That's what I'm trying
Without a
to
permit.
ascertain. I mean, like, if he
It's a
thinks it was
safety
unsafe
issue.
to even remodel
Somebody
that.
walks in, they collapse on them. But I have one question for Sid. It's a replatted lot, isn't it?
Yes.
They have permission to have two houses on there?
So,
I do, well, you can.
but you don't need a permit to remodel, right? They basically, did you get at what point did you get a permit?
We got a permit, to build,
No, you do need a permit to remodel, and that was the permit he got, to remodel.
basically what we're gonna build exactly what was there before.
But that's not a remodel.
Yeah.
I guess
How
I'm
it's
confused
not.
about the sequence.
Now it's not. He went in there to remodel, but the building was so bad it collapsed. Now he's coming back and saying, now it's not to remodel it. I need a permit to build a structure on the same footprint that was existing then.
Okay.
So I mean, that's the
We have
bottom line.
drawings of,
Yeah, it's attached in your packet, and I do have one comment to make, about him building to the same footprint. There's two structures that were there and that he's intending to rebuild. And I have met with the building department because the two structures have a separation distance of 4 feet 6 inches, according to Mr. Barajas, and the building department requires 10 feet. So we discussed this, that is something that the board cannot grant. You cannot grant variances on building codes. So he would have to modify the plan and meet with building department to make that section comply. But we have included the setbacks, which is what you guys rule on. So the setbacks, it's what he's requesting. Just wanted to make clear that.
Are you redoing both structures?
Yes. Well, the one structure, the only thing you gotta do is attach a little roof to it, and it'll be one part. It's very simple to do.
And one, between the two structures, they're encroaching?
There was, between the two structures, there was a gap, but the building department, by building codes, and you'll see that I attached a letter from building saying that their fire codes require 10 feet separation between structures. So I just wanted to make it clear that he wasn't gonna be able to build to what he's bringing in, like not to, the distance separation between those structures need to be increased to 10 feet. That cannot be.
But if I can put them together, then I'll get a.
You can meet with the building department and discuss that. The only thing that, your request is including is the setbacks.
Setbacks. Well, basically, the foundation's there, that's what we're gonna build it, whatever the foundation is there, is we're gonna just go on top of that.
Okay, but like, if the two buildings need to be 10 feet apart from each other, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Based on the building code?
And you'll see it on the plan, there
Yes.
is a red section, that is the one that I'm trying to explain. That section needs to be widened so that there's 10 feet instead of the 4 feet 6 inches.
But if I can connect them together, then it'll be one building, right?
I can't discuss that because we don't review plans, but you can meet with, we have building representatives from the building department that can guide him through the building codes.
Duplex?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm not saying that,
Oh,
I'm saying,
can we do
if
that,
you
right?
do it, they may allow you.
For your,
That's all I'm saying.
for your records, my name is Marco Gutierrez.
Yes, sir.
I'm the plans examiner too in building department.
Okay.
The first time I received the information on this permit, and I review everything, and I requested, or I recommended to apply to the Board of Adjustment before the permit, to verify all the information and be approved by the Board of Adjustment. But they continue with the permit. So,
See, you know, my take on this is that Mr. Barajas, being in the business, should know that a demolition permit is necessary to start with. And you also, if you went in to do remodeling, which I'm still fuzzy about, what were you gonna remodel? That, if you're saying you're gonna remodel everything, okay, fine. But the minute you start to remodel, look at it, and see that you're gonna have to tear it all down,
Well-
that requires another permit.
Well,
And now it's a new structure.
well, let me say, it was gonna be remodeled, when I went in there, it was supposed to be remodeled, but I didn't know what was behind the walls.
That's what he's saying, that he asked y'all to look at it, to verify the
Yeah, I
condition.
was not aware of that one. I didn't.
Is there any other questions? I can see where the footprint is there, I truly can. I can see where the footprint is there, and obviously the footprint was probably legal non-conforming.
Yes.
But at the same point,
It's also a very narrow lot. It looks narrow to me. I mean, I don't.
14 feet.
Yeah, it's a very small area.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness too, it's very,
Right.
I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close it.
I have a motion to close the public hearing if there's nothing else.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, folks, what are you gonna do? What are we gonna do here?
Well, I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do with the two structures, like I say, because that's not, like I was saying, obviously staff has an issue between the two buildings.
Yes, and before,
you.
you guys make a
Thank you, sir.
decision.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
also-
Barajas.
I want to bring another point that the building department recommended. It's not required, but they also recommend for fire safety that the rear of the property to have 5 feet. It's not a requirement because the zoning that they're in has no setback in the rear, but for fire protection, they're recommending for the setback to be 5 feet. So I included that on part of the request, so that's something that you guys.
Okay. But once again, not a requirement, but it was
Not
suggested.
not the rear. So the request that he's coming before you is for the front, for both sides, and the building department is recommending the rear, although that is not a requirement.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, like I say, I don't know how he's going to mitigate the 10 feet issue there unless he's gonna put one single roof. I mean, like, we have to vote on what's in front of us, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if he want, that, and that's something we have no authority over. That requirement is in place, correct?
To the two structures?
Yes.
Yeah, that is something
Yeah,
that,
there's nothing we have the authority to vote on to allow
that is
or
correct.
disallow.
That is the building department with the
Okay.
building codes.
Also, I'm sorry, I have the comment for the neighbor, that he's complaining on the elevations, they refilled the lot. Yeah,
Because the lot was slanted this way,
I know.
so.
But my recommendation is they can build a block fence to protect the neighbors. It's better to them than the neighbors.
Are any neighbors here to speak for that issue, or
No, they went to the office.
Oh.
They went to the office and,
did they receive notice of this
Yeah.
public hearing?
yeah,
Okay.
they have
We
pictures.
publish it, but we don't send notices to surrounding properties.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I see the footprint, you know, like I say, I'm inclined to allow for the footprint. I kind of like concur with staff, I mean, you can't have the two buildings unless they're, he has to work that out with the building department, not with us. I'm okay with the footprint myself. That would be my opinion, so.
I tend to agree with that because, say, in a parallel universe, if the building was okay to remodel, if you would have remodeled it, it'd be the same as if building it up now. So he's not making it any less safe than it already would have been.
Exactly.
So I'm inclined to approve the variances.
I'll make it a motion.
have a motion
Seconded.
and a second. Go ahead, make your motion, please.
I'll move to approve based on the footprint and the request for the variance.
What about the rear recommendation? Are we
We
making a
cannot
motion on that?
enforce that, but we're making sure that Mr. Barajas knows that that is a fire concern and that is something that the building department is.
Would that be a separate item that we need to look at, or what?
No, that is just recommended, but what he's here for is front and the side, the east side and the west side.
Can I see, in the back, we left the 5 feet already.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the request as presented. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Please let the record reflect I have opposed. All right, next one. Motion carries, sir. Thank you. Trying to get to it. Next one. Request submitted by Icon Builders to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of the Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24-77, entitled Dimensional Standards, by granting a variance to the lot area requirements on the north one-half of Lot 8, Block 980, Western Division, located at 3804 West San Francisco Avenue. Is anybody here to speak on behalf? All right, sir. I need a motion.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
Have a motion to open the public hearing and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? State your name, sir.
Javier Espinosa.
All right, sir. What do we got here?
Basically, I just wanted to see if I could build, I meet the setbacks for the property, the only thing is I don't have the width of the lot. Usually they're about 46, but this lot is 23. There's a structure right there at the moment, but they want to demolish it and build a new house for it. I want to see if I could get the variance for the 23 feet.
Has that lot been replatted?
Another narrow lot.
Yeah.
Has it been replatted?
It just needs to be replatted. Been like that for decades already.
You have a lot, and then you're cutting it in half?
No, that's the way it is.
Oh, the lot's that small?
Yeah.
That's the way that lot is?
It's a lot of records since.
And
It's a lot
that's
of
authorized,
record.
like, yeah.
And I just wanted to point out that they are following setback, even though the lot is very narrow, they are following setbacks for that zoning.
Okay.
It's 5 and 5 on each side.
And you're staying within that same footprint on the restructure?
I do meet the setbacks, but there's a property there, but I'm demolishing that old structure that's there. So there's no real footprint. I'm gonna create something new.
For the record, don't forget to get a demolition permit.
No, I'm fully aware of it.
Now,
Okay, so, but if you're following the same requirements on the setback, you are increasing the size of the building by reducing the lot area requirements from 5520 to 2287. What are we doing there?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What do you mean?
What I'm understanding is that the lot requirement areas for that, the north one half, they're required 5,520 square feet. And you're reducing that. Is that what I'm understanding there?
Yes, because of the size of the lot, they don't meet that lot area requirement.
The lot's already small.
Right.
It's already not conforming, right? That's how I understand it.
No, it is conforming.
Legal non-conformity.
It is a lot of record,
It's a lot of record.
yeah.
is that a mobile home or is that a house?
It looks
No, I
like a
believe
little
it's
pyramid beam
it's
house.
It's a house.
It's a
Is it a
little
house?
house there.
Yeah, wood structure.
Yeah, wood. It's very, very old.
And you can see it in the pictures. It's very, very narrow.
Historical.
Well, I don't know, they're in that area. Looked like a little pyramid beam house.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done before in other 23-foot lots where they build new structures on there as well.
Yes, sir. Do we have a rendering of what the new structure's gonna be, or?
Yeah, there's one there.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are being denied
Yes,
because?
because of the lot area requirements.
Okay.
But what, if he's following the same footprint,
And the setbacks.
Huh?
And the setbacks are, he's within the setbacks.
and the setbacks,
Right.
so it was
Yeah.
obviously legal non-conforming before.
It is a lot of record because it was subdivided prior to 1979, September 9, 1979. However, it still doesn't meet the lot area requirements
Lot area, lot
for,
width.
for the lot of record. So it was it's a lot of record because it was subdivided prior to the adoption of, or prior to when we
that's not the
recognized the
original
lot of
lots.
record lots. But the building department didn't want to issue a permit because they didn't meet the lot area requirements for that zoning.
Any questions? All right, I need a motion to close the public hearing. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anybody to speak against this process? No? All right, so what are we gonna do here?
Well, it seems very difficult to like, for what is capable, you know, what can you do with such a narrow lot? I mean, I find it very difficult to, you know, considering this rendering, I would be inclined to approve it.
I mean, the present structure is already there with the same dimensions and everything, so it's just gonna be a replacement building, right? Is that what we're talking about?
But the requirements on the lot before, Anna, the lot requirements were 5520 and we're reducing them to 2287. But then obviously the structure that was there, how does that meet the setback requirements and everything if it's a present building?
I'm not sure about the building. I can just tell you that based on the deed, the property was subdivided prior to 79, and that is what makes it a lot of record. Now, how they got their permits to build, I'm not sure how old the structure is. I don't have any records on the structure. But they're not able to rebuild because they don't meet the minimum requirements that we have in place right now.
In other words, they need a variance if they wanna build something on that lot, just because by definition, the lot's smaller than the allowable lot size, but it's not really, we don't know how far back that lot was subdivided, so.
Could you answer
It's-
that question for us?
Been a while. But the whole thing is, it's tough because you take,
Just a minute. Go ahead, Rick.
you're taking old lots that probably were okay when they were built in 70 or 60 or 50. But the laws have changed, the rules have changed.
Right.
So, I'm kind of inclined to let them have it, but the fact of the matter is you can't just paint everything with a brush and say, oh, okay, because we're building a lot or a house on the same footprint as was built in, 1950. You really gotta take each case individually and say, well, the lot's too small, you're not allowed to do it.
Uh-huh.
But it's been done before.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just saying, we just can't do it every time and say, well, there's a house there already, let's do it. The house that was there has been there 30 years, 40 years. Rules, regulations, requirements, setbacks, everything's changed.
But I am meeting setbacks regarding.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm not saying I'm voting against it, I'm just saying, you can't paint everything and say, hey, because the footprint's there, let's allow them to do it. You gotta take it case to case basis, that's all I'm saying.
All right, so what are we gonna do?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's all we have for today.
That's it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No further business before the Board of Adjustment on this day, September 12th, 2018. Meeting is adjourned.